wait for Bruce.
As soon as I see him walking in, I'll start. Because that way, by the time he sits down, it'll be running.
All right, it is
Give me 1 minute.
almost time.
There we go. Sorry.
Good evening. It is 5:14, and I'm going to call to order the August 16th, 2023 San Diego Water District Board meeting. And could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Board Member Blackwell?
Here.
Board Member Ehlers?
Here.
Board Member Hinsey?
Here.
Vice President Kranz?
Here.
President Lyons?
Here.
Record will show that all members of the board are present. And please note that San Diego Water District Board members receive an independent stipend of $100 for convening Water District meetings pursuant to San Diego Water District Resolution Number 89-07.
Thank you, City Clerk. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I see that we have, as far as special presentations and proclamations, that we have none this evening. As far as oral communications, are there any members of the public interested in speaking?
I have no request to speak.
Thank you. Report from closed session.
Thank you, President Lyons. The San Diego Water District Board of Directors met in one closed session on one item. Closed session, conference with legal counsel, significant exposure litigation, one case under Government Code 54956.9 D subsection 2, and the board took no reportable action when in closed session.
Thank you, City Attorney. Any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the posted agenda.
All right. Any changes to the consent calendar?
No items have been pulled by the public.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the consent calendar?
I'll move approval. I'll second.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Moving to item S10, action items, we have none tonight. Item S11, informational items. We do have an item 11A, Encinitas Valve Replacement Project Progress Report. Principal Engineer Harii will present this item.
Thank you, President Lyons and members of the board. My last name actually pronounces Hariri.
Thank you for that clarification.
But I know it's can be a little bit challenging. Can we get the presentation on here? Okay, there we go. All right, sounds good. So we have nearly 4,000 valves in our distribution system, and our operations and maintenance have a program that exercises these valves on a 3-year cycle for maintenance and also to identify valves which have begun to malfunction. Replacing these aging water valves will help us increase our operational efficiencies and readiness, and also decreases customer impacts during shutdowns for both routine maintenance and emergency situations. The best way I can describe these valves is imagine the 2 small valves we have under our kitchen sink or bathroom sinks. that we actually exercise them or isolate them in order to replace a water faucet on top. They basically have the same function. They isolate that portion of the system without impacting rest of the city. Unfortunately, most of these valves are 40 to 50 years old, and they are reaching the end of their useful service life. As far as this project is concerned, back in October of 2022, the district board authorized executing a contract with MRay Engineering for a total not to exceed contract amount of a little over $1,192,000. As you remember, there were some supply chain challenges back then, and the contractor wasn't able to acquire all the construction material he needed to start construction. Therefore, the notice to proceed was delayed till June 1st of this year. And we actually broke ground on July 24th of this year. The actual construction started on July 24th. In case you're wondering, this is a picture of a typical valve that we installing. This is a 12-inch gate valve and weighs roughly 500 pounds. So it has the same functionality as I was describing about those two small valves we have under our kitchen sink, but physically, they are very different from a physical standpoint. So under this contract, we're replacing 67 valves to be replaced within 22 intersections in old Encinitas. Consists of 23 sites, and as part of our original work, all this work was supposed to be completed within 100 working days and involved 12 localized system shutdowns. A typical site consists of 2 to 4 valves, air release and blow-off valves, as well as a fire hydrant isolation valve, as is depicted in the picture that I have on the lower right-hand side of this slide here. Public notification, we have a weekly notification by the contractor. We use Nextdoor app. We also provide updates through Wave Report and the City of Encinitas weekly newsletter, which I'm sure you have seen. We have also started notifying our customers twice a week on Mondays and Fridays of the impending shutdown. We also had in-person notification of the affected businesses along Santa Fe Road. We're near the project site, where I, along with another senior member of the district, we went door to door notifying the businesses of the project that was the impending project and potential lower pressures that they were going to be experiencing. But in order to maintain flow for these businesses, district staff installed a temporary high line, so those businesses were not affected at all. In fact, when we talked to them, they said they barely noticed the lower pressures, and they were very happy about the way the operation was conducted. As I mentioned, we broke ground on July 24th. First order of work included 3 sites on Santa Fe Drive, and that work was completed on August 11th. Second order of work included 2 sites at the intersection of Melba and Cornish Drive, which was completed, with the exception of a fire hydrant valve that is going to be done at a later date. And Melba and San Dieguito Drive, which is supposed to be done this Friday, but I have a good news. The bulk of that work was completed earlier this afternoon, and our O&M staff are working on restoring service to all the customers, affected customers. Third order of work is at the intersection of Melba and Devonshire Drive. This work is expected to be done next Friday, August the 25th. And these are some of the pictures of construction activities that we had on Santa Fe Drive. Like any other construction projects, this one is not immune from challenges. Our main challenge under this contract for this project is leaky valves, the very leaky valves we're trying to replace. These valves are water passing through these valves, causing challenges for our contractor doing the work. And it's causing also more extended shutdowns. So our O&M staff trying to minimize the amount of leak by that the contractor is seeing inside the construction trench. So we are keep expanding the shutdown, try to minimize the amount of leak by that goes into the trench. And that has unfortunately extended some of the shutdowns that we implemented. Let me show you a video if I can do that. This kind of gives you an idea of the leak by that we experience on one of our sites. That's a lot of water. So in this particular instance, our contractor, he had 4 pumps running at the same time, trying to evacuate that water from from the trench that he was working in. We have revised the order of work to help the contractor on this project. It does increase the number of shutdowns, but it does shorten their duration. And based on that, we anticipate to have this project completed by late January of next year or possibly early part of February. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Well, thank you very much. Do we have any, yes, Vice President Kranz?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate the report. Very interesting, kind of construction geeky stuff for me to see. I did ride my bike on San Diego today and Cornish, and I think I saw some plates and other signs of this project. I assume that the contractor is also going to come back with the repaving to make it as good as new, I assume?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the part of the work that it's part of the contract is he excavates on Mondays and Tuesdays. We do the shutdown on Wednesdays. He completes the installation of the new valves. And then on Thursdays and Fridays, he backfills and he does temporary paving till he completes most of the project, and he will be going back and doing the final paving.
Yeah, I saw what looked like some temporary paving.
Yes.
So eventually they're going to come back.
Absolutely.
And do permanent. I know this question doesn't need to be asked because I'm sure you've done this, but it'd be good to put it on the record. Devonshire and Melba is the entrance to Scripps Clinic. And so I'm assuming traffic plans for that particular valve replacement include accommodating people, or are you going to close that entrance and make them go one of the other entrances?
No, I don't think we're going to be closing any entrances. The traffic plan was reviewed by the city traffic department, and it's based on their review and approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? I have a question then. It's maybe a little bit technical, so I don't want to go totally down a rabbit hole here, but the leak by seems to be an unexpected existing condition that's been discovered. Once now that we're excavating, we see, this is the condition. Is the leak by being created by some of the condition of the valves, that the valves are in poor condition, and so in order to get them to shut down to isolate other portions, we're having trouble there? Am I understanding that right?
That's exactly correct. That's exactly what it is. We anticipated some leak by, and our contract has provisions for the contractor to deal with leak bys. But in that particular instance, as you could see, that was much more than what we anticipated for that particular site. The good news is, as we install these new valves, things are going to get a lot better. So, for instance, today, things kind of went smoothly. We didn't have as much challenges as we did for this particular site that you see here. And like I said, as we're replacing these valves, it's going to be easier to isolate these segments of our system, and hopefully things will get a lot easier and smoother.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any members of the public interested in speaking?
No, we do not.
All right. Appreciate the update of this informational item. Do we have any board member reports pursuant to AB 1234?
Nothing to disclose?
Nothing to report?
Nothing? Go ahead.
Nothing to report.
Okay. I also have nothing to,
Has there been some things with CWA that have taken place?
I did announce at our last city council meeting, and I can reiterate it here, that the prior general manager did retire, and action has been taken to select the deputy city manager to replace her, Dan
Okay.
Denham.
And there were some rate increases? I don't think that had been done, that vote at last time.
I believe I reported on it, but if I didn't, I certainly will again. The Water Authority, I don't have my notes in front of me, so I'll do the best I can from memory, but they forwarded along a rate increase of 9.7%. It was right around there, I may be off.
It's
Would you,
9.5%
9.5%.
instead of 13.7 that they originally were proposing.
And we budgeted with that, with some rate increases, part of the budgeting process.
Our budget was with 13.7 when we submitted.
So it was better for us.
Exactly right.
Okay.
You want to comment on that? Because, I mean, it's better, but I just want not to get across the wrong information because the numbers is not that much. I mean, and I will let Mary talk about the numbers, which she did
Okay.
the calculation,
Yeah.
and she has a better understanding of that.
Thank you, Sam. We did budget a little bit more than we had originally anticipated because we were expecting a 13.7% increase. But as we were working on the budget, we were also working very closely with CWA staff. And so each time they came close to a number that they felt was probably going to be adopted, then we were also making changes. So in the end, with the 9.7% increase in rates, we were able to budget enough funds, and we expect to see at least some savings of a little over $200,000. But we also expect that, given that our loss of local water from Lake Hodges, and depending on how the rest of their fiscal year goes and how much water demand will be demanded by our customers, some of that might get eaten away, or depending on if our customers use less water than we anticipate, then we might end up with additional savings.
So do we anticipate with these outcomes that we will have an item on an agenda soon, or will we just deal with it at the mid, in June, July timeframe?
We expect to bring forward to the board during the quarterly reports. We'll give you
Okay.
an update on exactly what's
Okay,
happening with
very
the
good.
budget.
Thank
I just
you.
want to bring up one thing in regards to that. This is, the reason it's 200,000 is because the increases are starting in January 1st of this year. So the first 6 months are not impacted by the 13.7 or the 9.5 at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking those questions. Now we're on item general information, staff status reports. Do we have a general manager's update or report?
Just quickly, I was going to give that update on the 9.5% because we did not discuss it during the last meeting. It was
Okay.
the day after. But also, I just want to bring to your attention that last year, we usually in the urban water management plan expect 2,000 acre-feet from Lake Hodges. We had only 1,115, which is something around 55% of what is anticipated or what we plan on. In addition to that, during the month of July, which is, if you recall, when we did the budget, we assumed that there will be 500 acre-feet of local water coming into the district. We had, in the month of July, 145 acre-feet from Lake Hodges. So hopefully that will continue so that we will meet the 500 at least for this coming year. It will not have any other impacts on that. So that's why one of the things that Mary and I were discussing is the fact of maybe we were going to hold off until we ensure how much of the 500 acre-feet will come in before we actually come in and present and say, okay, these $200,000 are extra. The other part from San Diego Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, if you recall, I requested authorization to go ahead and sign on to the CWA letter in regards to the costs associated with the detachment of Rainbow and Fallbrook. But during that meeting, LAFCO have actually voted to actually allow the detachment from Rainbow and Fallbrook from CWA. But obviously, this is not the end of the story. There's a lot of discussions in that regard after that.
Yeah, I believe LAFCO seldom has close votes, I mean, like that, right?
Yes,
So,
it's 5-3.
And my understanding is that our Assemblywoman Tasha Berner is carrying legislation that would put that decision up to a regional vote, which I think is not unreasonable, so I hope we follow that.
Yep. It's the AB 399, which is, there's a lot of discussions and a lot of closed sessions on the CWA perspective of things, so.
I was just going to mention, it's been a topic of closed session.
Yeah, so-
CWA? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of discussions in that regard, so.
Does the district want to take a position on it?
The district has taken a position. Our district?
Yeah.
Oh, no, unless you say you would like to consider that. Isam and I had talked about that and judged whether it should come forward for discussion, and we hadn't heard anything informally.
I'd like a
related to-
presentation and maybe bring it as action so that we could perhaps, agree to send a letter of some sort in support of or in opposition to. So I think that would be a good thing to have.
I'm not quite sure we will be able to get the presentation because it's all discussed in closed session, so I don't really know who from CWA will be ready to give a presentation unless President Lyons,
Well, but-
if anybody.
I think Vice President Kranz is talking about us considering whether
okay.
we
The legislation.
we want to
more
support the
of a-
legislation separate from what others are doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I'll leave it to you to figure out
All right.
how to present it on an agenda, if at all.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion.
Right. That's all I have, thank you.
All right. Seeing nothing else on the agenda, we will adjourn.
Yes, so